I grew up in the entertainment industry and I booked my first show when I was 10. I will never forget my first day on set. I thought that I was prepared, I had practiced, I worked with a coach, and in class I was doing fantastic. But I walked on the set that day and it was like something I had never seen. There's people running around with clipboards, all this scurrying, the director is yelling, there's people like banging away building sets, and I quickly discovered my least favorite person on set, whose name was Scripty, and their literal job was to listen to me deliver my lines, and if I get a single one wrong, she makes us retake. So the director comes up to me right before we're about to start our scene and informs me that because there was a train in the scene and all of these extras, every time that we reset, it was going to be another $10,000. That's a lot of pressure for a 10-year-old. So I start going into all of these what ifs. What if I forget my lines? What if my voice cracks? Oh no, what if I'm not as good on set as I was in the audition? What if? I got so caught up in the what ifs that I completely forgot about the whats, like what my first line was. And the director yells action and I go, nothing. I couldn't remember what the scene was about. I could not remember my first line. I couldn't even remember my own name at that point. I was so focused on everything that can go wrong that is exactly what happened. Tony Robbins gives a great example of this. He says, where focus goes, energy flows. And he said when he was first learning how to drive a race car, the very first thing that they teach you is don't look at the wall. Because the second you turn your head to look, your hands will follow ever so slightly and you will smash right into it. After that time, I realized that learning to control my focus was one of the big keys to success in acting and in business. And so I spent a good amount of time learning everything that I could about how to control my focus. When you have to make a sales call and the phones are ringing, or you got into a fight with a family member right before work, and the whole world is distracting you, how do you stay focused? When you're getting rejections, how do you get on the 50th call with the same amount of enthusiasm that you got on the first? How can you be confident and in a great mood no matter what is going on in your day? Your brain is going to focus on the most emotionally triggering thought, which means you have to be able to decrease the emotionality behind the thoughts that don't serve you and infuse emotion into the ones that do. So, the first principle that I like to talk about is called framing. Now, when I give this talk live, I usually start by doing a quick demonstration where I have people raise their hand because I tell them that I need a volunteer. And sure enough, usually there'll be, about a fourth of the room that raises their hand and everybody else kind of sits there quiet. And I call somebody up on stage, I ask them their name, and then I let them go sit down, and I let them know that the experiment has actually already happened, because the purpose of it is to see what went on in your mind when I asked that question. See, all of our minds are going to give an answer to whatever question that we pose it. So some people, as soon as I say, do you want to volunteer, go into their heads and think, oh no, what's she going to ask me to do? Is she going to ask me to do something embarrassing? Are people going to make fun of me? And obviously the answer to that question is that it's possible, and so they're going to sit in their seats very quietly and not raise their hand. Whereas the people who ask themselves the question, oh, an opportunity, I wonder what I can learn from this, those people took action and raised their hand. You have to be able to recognize and control the autopilot default of your subconscious and begin to become aware of it so that you can make more conscious choices. You have to learn how to ask yourself the right question. The right question will get you to take massive action and the right action. Now, there's always going to be fear, right? But the trick is to get the fear to work for you instead of against you. How do we do that? Again, by changing the type of questions that you ask. Because like we just talked about, for the people who sat there in their head and went, oh no, what if I'm embarrassed? That's going to cause a pain response in your body that gets you to not take action. But if you sit there and you think about, right, but what happens if I don't take action? well, then the answer is that I'll probably never accomplish my dreams. All of the vision that I have for my life is going to go to waste. And that fear of embarrassment is going to seem like nothing in compared to the fear of regret. So you have to exchange that question of what happens if I fail for the question, what happens if I don't try? And your fear of regret will far outweigh your fear of failure, and you will take action. An example of this, when I was a kid, I loved sugar. Loved sugar. I did not so much like brushing my teeth and going to the dentist. So when I did finally go, I found out that I had 12 cavities. Yes, this is possible. I had numerous holes on each tooth. And I was so afraid of needles at that point in my life that I decided that I was going to get these cavities filled with no Novocaine. Now, how many of you guys have ever had a cavity filled? You know how much it hurts, okay? So this was probably the most traumatic childhood experience of my life. By the 7th one, my parents and the dentist convinced me that I had to get this shot. And you can imagine my anger with myself when I realized that the pain of this itty bitty little baby shot was nothing compared to the hours of torture that I had just endured with all this drilling. And it's the same concept. When you start comparing what is more painful, when you start saying, okay, this little bitty itty bitty pain of going after my goals and dreams and possibly being a little embarrassed is nothing compared to the enormous weight of pain that I will feel if I don't try, then it will cause you to take different action and the right action. So I want you to write down this acronym for fear. You can either forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.